He demanded a divorce because he thought she couldn't give him an heir. But when she walked into that courtroom, she was carrying three. His three. The babies he never knew existed, conceived on their last night together. He's the heir to a Korean mafia empire. She's the hidden daughter of his family's oldest enemy. And now, the most dangerous man in the city is about to learn that the woman he threw away was the only one who could have destroyed him all along. This is the story of a marriage built on lies, a divorce that shattered an empire, and 3 heartbeats that changed everything. Hello everyone, I'm back with another Afro-Korean story that will break your heart and put it back together. Before we begin, please subscribe and help us reach 1,000 subscribers. Your support means everything. Now let's dive into this unforgettable story. The courthouse smelled like regret and expensive cologne. Jae-won sat at the mahogany table, his fingers laced together like a prayer he'd never learned to say. 32 years of being untouchable, and today felt like drowning in shallow water. His attorney shuffled papers. The judge hadn't arrived. The room was a tomb waiting for a body. He didn't look at the door. He'd promised himself he wouldn't. But when it opened, the air changed. It always did when she entered a room. Even now. Even after everything. She wore black. Not mourning black. War black. The kind of black that said, "I already buried you." Her heels clicked against marble like a countdown. 1, 2, 3. And then she stopped. Jae-won's breath stopped with her. Because beneath the tailored coat, beneath the elegant drape of fabric, her body told a story his mind couldn't process. The curve of her belly, the fullness, the impossible, undeniable truth. She was pregnant. Very pregnant. His attorney's pen clattered to the floor. The sound echoed like a gunshot in the silence. Nia didn't flinch. She walked to her side of the table, movements slow and deliberate, like a queen approaching a throne she'd already claimed. Her dark skin seemed to glow in the cold fluorescent light. Her eyes, those eyes that had once looked at him like he was worth saving, met his for one unbearable second. Then she looked away. It was that dismissal that broke him. What? His voice cracked. He never cracked. What is this? She didn't answer. Her attorney, a sharp woman with silver hair and sharper eyes, slid a folder across the table. Jae-won's hands shook as he opened it. Medical records, ultrasound images, 3 heartbeats. 3 tiny shadows curled together like secrets. Triplets, the attorney said. 16 weeks. Jae-won's world tilted. 16 weeks, 4 months, which meant his mind raced backward. 4 months ago, their last night together, the night before he'd told her he wanted a divorce. The night he'd held her like he was memorizing the shape of her body, like some part of him knew it was the last time. The night she'd whispered his name like a prayer, and he'd answered like a sinner seeking absolution. He'd thought it was goodbye. He hadn't known it was also hello. They're mine. It wasn't a question. It was a demand for reality to make sense. Naya's fingers traced the edge of her belly, a gesture so tender it felt obscene in this sterile room. Yes. 1 word, 1 syllable, 1 truth that shattered 3 years of lies. You told me? His voice was ice and fire. You said you couldn't. I lied. Her voice was steady, soft. The kind of soft that came from making peace with devastation. About a lot of things. Jae-won stood, his chair scraped backward. 3 years, Nia. 3 years of marriage, and you... You wanted a divorce, she interrupted. And for the first time, her voice trembled. Just slightly. Just enough. You looked at me across our dining table and told me I was a failure because I couldn't give you an heir. You called me barren, empty, a disappointment to your family's legacy. The words landed like bullets. He remembered. God, he remembered. He'd said those things with his father's voice in his head, his grandfather's expectations on his shoulders, the weight of an empire that demanded blood to continue. If I had told you that night, she continued, her hand now pressing firmly against her belly, protective, would you have stayed because you loved me? Or because I was finally useful? The question hung between them like smoke. You don't know what it's like, he said, his voice dropping to something dangerous. To carry a name that heavy. To be responsible for... I know exactly what it's like. Her eyes flashed. You just never asked. Something in her tone made his spine straighten. There was a weight there. a darkness that matched his own. "Who are you?" he wanted to ask. But the judge was entering. The proceedings were beginning, and Nia was signing papers with the same hand that cradled his children. "Mrs. Park," the judge said, "you're requesting full custody, a restraining order, and—" He paused, adjusting his glasses. "A complete severance of parental rights?" Jaewon's blood went cold. "Yes, Your Honor." "You understand what you're asking?" the judge pressed. "This means Mr. Park would have no legal claim to these children, no visitation, no contact." "I understand perfectly." Jaewon slammed his hand on the table. "You can't. I can." Nia finally looked at him fully. "You wanted me gone. You wanted to erase me from your perfect legacy. Congratulations. You're about to get exactly what you asked for." But her eyes were wet. And suddenly, Jaewon understood. This wasn't revenge. This was survival. She was protecting herself, protecting them, from him, from his world, from the empire that had taught him to value power over people. "Don't do this," he whispered. And it was the first honest thing he'd said in months. Nia stood. Her coat fell open, revealing the full curve of her pregnancy. 3 lives, 3 chances he'd already lost. "You divorced me the moment you decided I wasn't enough," she said. "I'm just finishing what you started." She walked out of the courtroom, and Jaewon, heir to the most powerful Korean mafia family in America, sat paralyzed as the mother of his children disappeared into the city. He didn't know she was the only daughter of the Adeyemi cartel. He didn't know her family had spent 3 years planting her in his life. He didn't know that the war his father always feared was about to begin. Not with bullets, but with heartbeats. Jaewon didn't go home. Home was a penthouse overlooking a city he owned but didn't love. Home was marble and silence and portraits of dead men who'd built empires on bones. Home was his father waiting with questions he couldn't answer. Instead, he drove. His hands gripped the steering wheel of the Bentley until his knuckles went white. The city blurred past. Neon signs, crowded streets, lives happening at normal speed while his had just detonated. Triplets, his children, and Naya. He slammed the brakes. The car screeched to a halt in an empty parking garage. He sat in the darkness, breathing hard, trying to piece together a woman he'd never actually known. She'd been 25 when they married. He'd been 29. An arranged marriage, brokered by his father and someone Jaewon had never met. "A good match," his father had said. "Clean background, no complications." She'd stood at the altar in white silk, her dark skin radiant, her eyes holding secrets he'd been too arrogant to wonder about. He'd said his vows. She'd said hers. And for 3 years, they'd played house in a mansion built on blood money. He'd never asked about her family. He'd never asked about her past. He'd never asked about anything except why she couldn't give him what his legacy demanded. God, what kind of husband had he been? His phone buzzed. His father. He ignored it. It buzzed again. His brother. He threw the phone into the passenger seat. Then he drove to the only place that had ever held the truth. Their apartment. Not the mansion, not the estate. The small apartment in Brooklyn where they'd spent the first 6 months of marriage before his father had insisted they move somewhere appropriate for the Park name. Nia had loved that apartment. She'd filled it with plants and books and music that made the walls feel alive. He'd never understood why she'd cried when they left. Now, standing outside the building, he wondered what else he'd never understood. The apartment was empty. Of course it was. She'd moved out months ago after he'd said the words that ended them. But when he used his old key, the one he'd never returned, and stepped inside, the air still smelled like her. Cocoa butter. Vanilla. Something floral he'd never learned the name of. The furniture was gone, but ghosts remained. He walked through rooms where they'd laughed, where they'd fought, where they'd made love like they were the only 2 people in a city of millions. He stopped in the bedroom. The walls were still that deep blue she'd painted them. "Like the ocean at night," she'd said. "Like something endless." On the windowsill, she'd left one thing behind. A photograph. Jaewon picked it up with trembling hands. It was from their wedding day. Not the formal portraits. This was a candid shot. Someone had caught them in a moment between poses. Nia was laughing at something he'd whispered. His hand was on her waist. And the way he was looking at her, he'd loved her. Before the pressure. before his father's voice drowned out his own, before he'd learned to measure her worth in heirs instead of heartbeats. He'd loved her, and he'd destroyed it anyway. His phone rang again. This time he answered. "Where are you?" His father's voice was steel wrapped in silk. "You missed the family meeting." "I don't care." Silence. His father wasn't used to defiance. "The divorce is finalized?" his father asked. "No." "What do you mean, no?" Jaewon closed his eyes. "She's pregnant, with triplets, my children." The pause stretched so long he thought the call had dropped. "Bring her back," his father finally said. "Immediately. The family needs—" "She doesn't want to come back." "I don't care what she wants. Those children are Park's. They belong to us. You will do whatever is necessary to—" Jaewon hung up. He'd never hung up on his father before. It felt like stepping off a cliff. He hired investigators that night. The best. The kind who could find anything, anyone, any secret buried deep enough to need finding. "I want to know everything about my wife," he told them. "Her real name, her family, where she came from, who she is." The lead investigator, a man named Chen with eyes like a hawk, raised an eyebrow. "You were married 3 years and don't know?" "Apparently not." Chen nodded slowly. "Give me 48 hours. Jaewon spent those 48 hours haunting his own life. He walked through the mansion and saw Nia everywhere. The library where she'd spent mornings reading. The garden she'd tried to grow, before his mother had replaced it with something more refined. The breakfast table where she'd asked him about his day, every day, until he'd stopped answering. He'd treated her like furniture. Beautiful, expensive, expected to stay in place. And when she hadn't produced what he needed, he'd discarded her. His brother found him in his office at 2 a.m. staring at nothing. "You look like hell," Minho said, pouring 2 glasses of whiskey. "I am hell." Minho sat across from him. Younger by 3 years, he'd always been the one who asked uncomfortable questions. "Tell me." So Jaewon did. All of it. The pregnancy, the custody battle, the way Nia had looked at him like he was already dead to her. Minho was quiet for a long time. Then, "Did you ever actually love her?" "Yes." "Did you ever tell her?" Jaewon's silence was answer enough. "You're an idiot," Minho said, not unkindly. "She was the best thing that ever happened to you, and you threw her away because father convinced you that producing heirs mattered more than being human." "I know." "Do you?" "Because from where I'm sitting, you're still more worried about the family legacy than the woman carrying your children." The words hit like a fist. Before Jaewon could respond, his phone lit up. "Chen." "I found something," the investigator said. "You're going to want to sit down for this. Tell me. Your wife's real name is Nia Adeyemi. She's the only daughter of Kwame Adeyemi." The name landed like a bomb. Kwame Adeyemi, the ghost of Lagos. The man who controlled half the East Coast's underground trade. The rival his father had spent 20 years trying to destroy. "That's impossible," Jaewon breathed. "It's very possible, and very deliberate. Your marriage wasn't random. It was a plant. She's been in your house, in your bed, in your life for 3 years, feeding information to her family. The room spun. There's more," Chen continued. "She disappeared after the courthouse. No trace, no credit card activity, no sightings. It's like she vanished. Find her. Mr. Park, if her family has her, I don't care. Find her." He hung up and looked at his brother. Minho's face was pale. "If father finds out—" Minho started. "He can't. Not yet. Not until I understand what's happening." But Jaewon already knew. He'd married a spy. He'd fallen in love with a lie. And now the 3 heartbeats growing inside her were the only real thing in a world built on deception. He had to find her. Not for the empire. For the first time in his life. For something that actually mattered. Nia's hands wouldn't stop shaking. She sat in the back of the car, armored, windows tinted black, as it raced through the city toward a place she'd hoped never to return, her father's estate. The fortress where she'd been raised to be a weapon. And now, a weapon was all she had left. "Miss Adeyemi." The driver's voice was respectful, distant. "We'll arrive in 10 minutes." She didn't answer. Her hands were pressed against her belly, feeling the flutter of movement. 3 lives. 3 innocent souls caught in a war they didn't choose. Just like she'd been. Her phone had been ringing since she left the courthouse. J1. 27 missed calls. 14 voicemails. She didn't listen to them. Couldn't. Because if she heard his voice, if she heard him say her name the way he used to, soft and low, like a secret only they shared, she might break. And breaking wasn't an option anymore. She'd already broken once. 3 years ago, when she'd walked into the Park estate as a bride and a spy, her heart had been steel. Her mission had been clear: infiltrate, gather intelligence, destroy the family that had been her father's enemy for 2 decades. But then J1 had looked at her. Really looked at her. Not like an asset or a bride or a means to an end. Like a woman. Like someone worth knowing. And God help her, she'd looked back. The estate loomed ahead. Stone and iron. Guards at every gate. This was where her father had taught her to shoot before she could read. Where she'd learned 5 languages and how to kill a man in 7 different ways. Where she'd been told over and over that her only purpose was to serve the family. She'd hated it. She'd escaped it by marrying into the Park family. And now, pregnant and alone, she was crawling back. The gates opened. The car pulled into the circular drive. And there, standing at the top of the marble steps like a king surveying his kingdom, was Kwame Adeyemi, her father. He was 62 but looked 40. Tall, powerfully built, with silver threading through his dark hair and eyes that could read a person's soul in 3 seconds. He wore a tailored suit that probably cost more than most people's cars. And when he saw Nia step out of the car, saw her belly, her exhaustion, her defeat, something flickered across his face. Almost like love. Almost. "Daughter," he said, descending the steps. "Welcome home." Nia's throat tightened. "I didn't have anywhere else to go." He reached her, and for a moment she thought he might embrace her. Instead, he placed one hand on her shoulder. "You always have a home here. You know that." Did she? She'd spent 3 years as a ghost in his life. 3 years feeding him information about the parks while pretending to be a dutiful wife. 3 years caught between 2 empires, belonging to neither. "Come inside," he said gently. "We'll talk." The study was exactly as she remembered. Dark wood. Expensive art. A desk that had witnessed more blood deals than peace treaties. Her father poured her water, just water he knew better than to offer anything else, and sat across from her. "Triplets," he said. Not a question. "Yes." "J1s. Yes." He leaned back, studying her. "Does he know they're his?" "He does now." A long pause. Then, "And what did he say?" Nia's hands curled into fists. "It doesn't matter what he said. I asked for full custody. No contact. I'm erasing him from their lives." "That's not what I asked." She looked up, and her father's gaze was too knowing, too sharp. He looked destroyed. She whispered, "Like I'd taken something he didn't know he wanted until it was gone." "And how did you look?" She didn't answer. Couldn't. Because she knew how she'd looked, like a woman who'd just torn out her own heart and handed it to a judge. "Nia." Her father's voice softened. "I sent you into that family to destroy them, not to love them." "I know." "Do you? Because loving a park is—" "I said I know." Her voice cracked. "I know what I was supposed to do. I know I failed. I know I'm a disappointment. I've heard it my entire life from you, and now I'm hearing it from myself, so please, just stop." Silence. Her father stood, walked to the window. The estate sprawled below. Gardens, guards, a world built on violence and control. "You're not a disappointment," he said quietly. "You're my daughter. And you did exactly what I should have known you'd do." She blinked. "What?" He turned back to her. "You fell in love, despite everything, despite the mission, despite knowing what he was. You fell in love with a man who was supposed to be your enemy." Tears burned her eyes. "And look where it got me. It got you 3 children. It got you out of a loveless marriage. It got you home." He moved closer. "Nia, I'm many things. I've done terrible things. But I never wanted this life for you. I wanted you safe, protected. And if that means you hate the parks and walk away, then I've succeeded. But the mission— damn the mission." His voice was fierce now. You think I care about some rivalry more than I care about you? About my grandchildren? Nia's breath caught. Grandchildren. She'd never thought of them that way. As his. As part of this legacy, too. The Parks will come for them, she said. Jaewon's father won't let this go. The moment he knows who I really am, let him try. Her father's smile was cold. I've been waiting 20 years for an excuse to finish what we started. If they want war over my grandchildren, they'll get war. I don't want war. I want peace. I want my babies to grow up away from all of this. Her voice broke. I want them to have what we never did, choice. Her father knelt in front of her, something she'd never seen him do. He took her hands in his. Then we'll give them that. I swear it. How? How do we escape this when we're drowning in it? We don't escape, daughter. We rewrite the rules. That night, Nia lay in her childhood bedroom, staring at the ceiling. The babies kicked. 3 distinct movements, 3 different personalities already making themselves known. She wondered if they'd have Jaewon's eyes, his stubborn jaw, his ability to break hearts without even trying. Her phone buzzed. Another voicemail. Against every instinct, she listened. Nia. His voice was raw, broken. I know you have every right to hate me. I know I don't deserve to ask for anything, but please, let me try. Let me be the man I should have been from the beginning. Not for the family, not for the legacy, for you, for them. I'm begging you. The message ended, and Nia closed her eyes, feeling tears slide down her temples, because the cruelest part wasn't that she hated him. It was that she didn't. Even now. Even after everything. Some broken part of her still loved the man who destroyed her. And that was more dangerous than any war. Jaewon sat in his father's office like a defendant awaiting sentencing. The room was a cathedral of power. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, a kingdom his family had built on silence and fear. His father stood at those windows now, hands clasped behind his back, saying nothing. The silence was a weapon. Jaewon had learned that early. His father never raised his voice. Never had to. The quiet was where men broke. Chen sent me his report, his father finally said. His voice was glacier cold. Your wife is Kwame Adeyemi's daughter. Jaewon's jaw tightened. Yes. You brought a viper into our home, into our family, into our bed. I didn't know. You should have known. His father turned, and his eyes were black ice. 3 years, Jaewon. 3 years she lived under our roof. 3 years she had access to everything. Our business, our contacts, our vulnerabilities. And you were too busy playing house to notice. The accusation landed like a blade. She's pregnant with my children, Jaewon said, his voice steady despite the storm inside him. Your grandchildren. She's a spy carrying leverage. His father moved closer, each step deliberate. Those children are weapons, Jaewon. Adeyemi will use them to destroy us. Or I could use them to end this war. His father laughed. It was a terrible sound. You think marriage and babies will bring peace? You think love conquers blood feuds that span decades? He leaned down, his face inches from Jaewon's. Love is a luxury we cannot afford. You want those children? You take them. Legally. Forcefully. Whatever it requires. But that woman does not raise Parks in Adeyemi's house. Jaewon stood. They were eye to eye now. She's their mother. She's the enemy. She's the woman I love. The words escaped before he could stop them. His father's expression didn't change, but something flickered behind his eyes. Then you're weaker than I thought, and weakness gets people killed. Maybe I'm tired of strength that looks like cruelty. Then you're not fit to lead this family. The statement hung between them like a death sentence. Jaewon had spent his entire life preparing to inherit this empire, had sacrificed everything, his dreams, his desires, his chance at a normal life, to be worthy of the Park name. And now his father was taking it away because he'd admitted loving his own wife. You have a choice, his father said, returning to the window. The family. Or her. You cannot have both. Jaewon looked at the man who'd raised him, taught him, shaped him into something hard and unyielding, and for the first time, he saw his father clearly. A king of ashes, ruling an empire of ghosts. What if I choose both? Jaewon asked quietly. Then you choose war. Jaewon walked out of that office and didn't look back. His brother was waiting in the hallway. Minho took one look at his face and knew. "You're going after her," Minho said. "Yes. Father will disown you. I know. The family will turn on you. I know that too." Minho grabbed his arm. "Jaewon, think about this. You walk away now, you lose everything. Your position, your inheritance, your protection. Adeyemi could kill you the second you show up at his door. Or he could listen. Why would he listen to you?" Jaewon met his brother's eyes. "Because I'm the father of his grandchildren. And because unlike everyone else in this goddamn city, I'm willing to admit I was wrong." Minho released him slowly. "You really love her. I really love her. Even knowing what she is, what she did." Jaewon thought about Nia. Her laugh, her strength, the way she'd looked at him in that courthouse, like he was a stranger she'd once known. She was a spy. I was a tyrant. We were both playing roles we hated. He straightened his jacket. "Maybe it's time we stopped." "If you do this," Minho said carefully, "you're on your own. I can't help you. Father will make sure of it." "I'm not asking for help. I'm asking you to understand." Minho was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled Jaewon into an embrace, brief, fierce. "Go get your family back, you idiot." The Adeyemi estate was a fortress. Jaewon stood at the gates at midnight, alone, unarmed. Guards surrounded him within seconds. 8 men, all armed, all ready to kill on command. "I'm here to see Kwame Adeyemi," Jaewon said calmly. "Tell him Jaewon Park requests an audience." The head guard laughed. "You've got balls, I'll give you that. Showing up here after what your family's done. I'm not here as a Park. I'm here as a father. You're here as a dead man. Then kill me, but let me see my children first." The guard's smile faded. He spoke into a radio. A crackle of response. Then, surprisingly, "Boss says let him in." The gates opened. Jaewon walked through enemy territory with his heart in his throat. The estate was massive. Gardens that looked black in the moonlight, fountains silent as graves. Every window felt like an eye watching him. He was led to a sitting room. Ornate, beautiful, coldly perfect. And there, in a leather chair that might as well have been a throne, sat Kwame Adeyemi. He was exactly as Jaewon had imagined. Powerful, composed, the kind of man who controlled rooms without trying. "Mr. Park," Kwame said. His accent was slight, musical. "You're either very brave or very stupid." "Probably both." Kwame smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "Sit." Jaewon sat. "You want to see my daughter?" Kwame said. It wasn't a question. "I want to talk to her, to apologize, to what? Win her back? Take the children? Assuage your guilt?" "All of it. None of it. I don't know anymore." Jaewon leaned forward. "I just know that I can't let her disappear without telling her the truth." "Which is?" "That I was an arrogant fool who didn't see what he had until it was gone. That she deserved better than what I gave her. That I love her, and I love the children she's carrying, and I will spend the rest of my life proving it if she'll let me." Kwame studied him. "Pretty speech. You practice that?" "Every second since she walked out of the courthouse." "And what makes you think I won't kill you right now? You're the heir to my greatest enemy. Your father has spent decades trying to destroy me. You think I'll let you anywhere near my daughter? My grandchildren?" Jaewon met his gaze without flinching. "Because you love her, and you want her to be happy. And if there's even a chance that I can make her happy, you'll take it. Because that's what real love looks like." The room was so quiet he could hear his own heartbeat. Kwame stood, walked to a bar cart, poured 2 glasses of whiskey, handed one to Jaewon. "My daughter," Kwame said slowly, "has been a weapon her entire life. I trained her that way, raised her to be useful, to serve the family above all else." He took a drink. "I thought I was protecting her, making her strong, but all I did was teach her that her worth was tied to what she could do for others." Jaewon's chest tightened. "Then she met you," Kwame continued. "And for the first time, I saw her. Soft. Human. She'd call me and talk about books you'd discussed, food you'd cooked together, stupid, ordinary things that made her sound like a woman in love instead of a soldier at war. I didn't know. No, you didn't. Because you were doing the same thing I was, valuing her for what she could give you instead of who she was. Kwame's eyes were hard. So here's what I want to know, Mr. Park. If she can't give you children, if she can't give you power or status or anything useful, will you still love her? Yes. How can you be sure? Because I loved her before I knew about the babies. I just didn't admit it. Not to her, not even to myself. And that's on me. But I'm done lying. To her, to you, to anyone. Jaewon set down his glass. I love your daughter. I love the family we're building, and I will walk through hell to prove it. Kwame was silent for a long time. Then he called out, Nia, you can come in now. Jaewon's heart stopped. The door opened. And there she was. Nia stood in the doorway, her hand on her belly, her eyes filled with tears and fury and something that looked almost like hope. You heard? Kwame asked her. Every word. She looked at Jaewon. And the world narrowed to just the two of them. Did you mean it? She whispered. He stood. Every syllable. You hurt me. I know. You made me feel worthless. I know. You don't get to just apologize and fix this. I know that too. She stepped closer. Then why are you here? Because I'd rather spend the rest of my life trying to earn your forgiveness than one more day pretending I don't need it. Nia's breath hitched, and Kwame quietly left the room, leaving them alone. Finally, they stood 3 feet apart. It felt like miles. Nia's hands trembled against her belly. The babies were moving, restless, as if they could sense the tension crackling between their parents. You shouldn't have come here, she said. Her voice was steady, but her eyes betrayed her. I had to. Why? So you could ease your conscience? So you could tell yourself you tried? No. Jaewon took 1 step closer. Just 1. Because the thought of my children growing up thinking I didn't want them, thinking I didn't want you, is worse than anything your father could do to me. Nia's facade cracked, just slightly. You told me I was a failure. You looked me in the eyes and said I wasn't enough. I know. His voice broke. And I will regret those words every day for the rest of my life. Words aren't enough, Jaewon. I know that too. He reached into his jacket, pulled out an envelope. That's why I brought this. She didn't take it. What is it? Divorce papers, already signed. I'm giving you everything. The Brooklyn apartment, the summer house. Half of my personal assets. And full custody of the children with no contest. Nia stared at him. Why? Because you were right, in the courthouse. I wanted the divorce for the wrong reasons. So now I'm giving it to you for the right ones. Your freedom, your safety, your choice. She finally took the envelope. Her hands shook as she opened it. Read the documents. Every word was exactly what he'd promised. You're just giving up? She asked. No. I'm giving you control. There's a difference. He swallowed hard. If you want me out of your life completely, sign those papers. I'll disappear. The children will never know me. I'll make sure of it. And if I don't sign? Then I'm asking, begging, for a chance to prove I can be the man you deserved from the beginning. Nia's eyes filled with tears. You don't understand what you're asking. My father. Your father. They'll never allow. I don't care what they allow. I'm done living for other people's empires. He stepped closer. Close enough to touch, but he didn't. I'm choosing you. I'm choosing us, whatever that looks like. And your family? Your inheritance? My father already disowned me. I walked away. From all of it. She gasped. Jaewon, I don't want a legacy built on blood and fear. I want a life built on love. Even if it's small. Even if it's ordinary. Even if it means I'm just a man instead of a king. His voice dropped to a whisper. I want you, Nia. Just you. The tears spilled over. She pressed her hand to her mouth, shoulders shaking. You left everything, she breathed. For me. For us. What if I can't forgive you? What if I'm too broken to trust you again? Then we'll be broken together. And maybe we can put each other back. Nia looked down at the papers in her hands. At the signature that would end everything. Or begin it. I was supposed to destroy you, she whispered. That was my mission. Marry you, learn your secrets, help my father take down your family. I know. Her head snapped up. You know? I hired investigators after the courthouse. I know who you are, who your father is, what you were sent to do. And you still came here? I came here because of it. Because you could have destroyed us 100 times over and you didn't. Because somewhere in all the lies, something real happened. We happened. Nia was crying openly now. I fell in love with you. That wasn't supposed to happen. I fell in love with you too, and I was too stupid and proud to admit it. She set the papers down on a nearby table, took one step toward him, then another. If I let you back in, she said, her voice shaking, you don't get to leave again. You don't get to decide I'm not enough when things get hard. You don't get to make me feel like I'm only valuable because of what I can give you. Never again, I swear it. And these babies? She placed her hand over her belly. They come first, always, before your pride, before your family's expectations, before everything. Always. And you have to meet my father properly, not as enemies, as family, because like it or not, he's their grandfather too. Jaewon nodded. I already started. That conversation earlier, that was me trying. A laugh escaped her, wet, broken, beautiful. You're insane. You know that? For you, absolutely. She closed the distance between them, placed her hand on his chest, right over his heart. It was racing. I'm scared, she admitted. Scared you'll hurt me again. Scared this won't work. Scared we're too damaged to build something good. I'm terrified, he said honestly, but I'm more terrified of living without you. Nia looked up at him, and in her eyes, he saw it. The thing he'd been too blind to recognize before. She loved him. Still, despite everything. Don't make me regret this, she whispered. I won't. I promise. She kissed him. It was soft, tentative, like a question and an answer all at once. His hands came up to cradle her face, gentle, reverent. And when they pulled apart, both of them were crying. We have so much to figure out, she said. I know. Our families, where we'll live, how to keep these babies safe in a world that wants to use them. We'll figure it out. Together. Together, she echoed. And for the first time in months, the word felt like a promise instead of a lie. Kwame returned an hour later to find them sitting side by side on the couch, Nia's head on Jaewon's shoulder, his hand resting protectively on her belly. So, Kwame said, you're staying. Jaewon stood. With your permission, sir, I'd like to marry your daughter. Again. The right way this time. Kwame raised an eyebrow. You're already married. That was a contract. I want a commitment. Nia laughed through her tears. Jaewon. I mean it. A real wedding. One where I vow to love you, not to serve my family's interests. One where you know, where everyone knows, that I chose you. Kwame looked at his daughter. What do you say, Nia? She looked at Jaewon, at the man who'd broken her heart and was now kneeling, metaphorically, asking for a second chance. Ask me properly, she said. Jaewon smiled, then he actually knelt, right there, in front of her father, in front of God and everyone. Nia Adeyemi, he said, will you marry me? Not because our families arranged it. Not because it serves some agenda, but because I love you. Because I want to build a life with you. Because those 3 heartbeats inside you are the most precious thing in the world, and I want to be there for every single one. She pulled him up, kissed him. Yes, 1,000 times yes. Kwame cleared his throat. Well, this is unexpected. Jaewon turned to him. I know we have a lot to work through. Your history with my father, the rivalry. But I'm asking, can we try? For them? He gestured to Nia's belly. Can we give these children something better than the war we inherited? Kwame was quiet for a long time. Then he extended his hand. Jaewon took it. And in that handshake, a new empire was born. Not built on blood, but on the fragile, precious hope that maybe, just maybe, love could rewrite the rules after all. 3 months later. The wedding was small. Private. Nothing like the extravagant affair their families would have demanded. They married in the Brooklyn apartment, the one Nia had loved. the one Jae-won had bought back and filled with flowers. Min-ho stood as best man. Kwame walked Nia down the aisle, all 10 feet of it, and when they said their vows, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. "I vow to choose you," Jae-won said, his hands holding hers. "Every day, in every way, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. I vow to trust you," Nia said, her voice strong despite her tears. "To build something real with you. To let love be louder than fear." They kissed as husband and wife, for the second time. But this time, it meant everything. The babies came 2 months early. Nia went into labor at 3 a.m. Jae-won had been sleeping beside her, his hand on her belly like always, and he woke to her gripping his arm so hard he thought she'd break it. "It's time," she gasped. He'd planned for this, had the car ready, had the hospital on speed dial, had rehearsed the route 100 times, and yet he still panicked. "Breathe," Nia told him, even though she was the one in labor. "I'm breathing." "You're hyperventilating." "Same thing." She laughed. Even in pain, she laughed. The hospital was a blur. Doctors, nurses, machines beeping. Kwame arrived. Min-ho arrived. Even Jae-won's mother came, defying her husband for the first time in her life. And then, after 18 hours of labor that felt like 18 years, 3 cries filled the room. 3 perfect, tiny humans. 2 boys, 1 girl. Jae-won held his daughter first. She was impossibly small. Her skin was a beautiful blend of both her parents. And when she opened her eyes, dark and infinite, he fell in love all over again. "She has your eyes," Nia whispered, exhausted but glowing. "She has your strength," he replied. They named her Amara. It meant grace. The first boy they named Kai. Ocean. For the endless possibility ahead. The second boy they named Elijah. My God is Yahweh. A prayer. A hope. And when Jae-won held all 3 of them, his entire world in his arms, he understood what his father never had. Legacy wasn't about blood. It was about love. 6 months later, Jae-won sat in a new office. Not the Park estate, not his father's empire. His own. He'd started a security firm. Legitimate. Clean. Using all the skills his family had taught him, but for protection instead of destruction. It was small. Growing. And it was his. Nia worked from home, writing. She'd always loved stories, and now she had time to tell them. Her first novel was about a woman caught between 2 worlds. It was fiction. Mostly. The babies were chaos. Beautiful, exhausting chaos. Amara was curious about everything. Kai was quiet, observant. Elijah smiled at everyone and everything. And Jae-won loved every sleepless night, every diaper change, every moment. His father never reached out, but Min-ho visited every week. And slowly, carefully, Jae-won was building something with his brother. A bridge between the family he'd left and the one he'd chosen. Kwame became the world's most unlikely grandfather. He taught the babies Yoruba lullabies, told them stories of Lagos, and looked at Jae-won like maybe, just maybe, he'd made the right choice. "You're good for her," Kwame said one evening, watching Nia and Jae-won dance in the living room with babies in their arms. "She's good for me," Jae-won replied. "You gave up a lot for this." "I gave up nothing. I gained everything." Kwame smiled. "You sound like a man who's finally awake." "I am. She woke me up." 1 year after the divorce that never finalized. 2 years after the wedding that became real. 3 lives that changed everything. Jae-won found Nia on the balcony one night. The babies were finally asleep. The city sprawled below them, glittering and alive. "What are you thinking about?" he asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "How different this is from what I imagined. Better or worse? So much better it's terrifying." He kissed her temple. "We did it. We built something good. We're building," she corrected. "Still building." "Still building," he agreed. She turned in his arms. "Do you ever regret it? Walking away from your family? The power?" "Not even for a second." He cupped her face. "You and those 3 heartbeats in there? You're my empire now." She kissed him. Deep. Long. The kind of kiss that said everything words couldn't. When they pulled apart, she was smiling. "I love you, Jae-won Park." I love you, Nia Adeyemi Park. Think we'll make it? Long term? I think we'll fight and grow and change and choose each other anyway, every single day. That sounds exhausting. That sounds like love. She laughed, and the sound carried out over the city, over the empires they'd left behind, over the war they'd ended, over the new world they were building. A world where 3 children would grow up knowing they were loved, not for what they could give, but for who they were. And maybe that was the greatest empire of all. The end. In the quiet moments, when the babies slept and the city hummed below, Jaewon and Nia would sit together and marvel at how they'd gotten here, from enemies to lovers. From lies to truth, from broken to whole. It wasn't perfect. Nothing ever was. But it was theirs. And in a world built on power and blood and ancient feuds, that was everything. 3 heartbeats had rewritten the rules. And love, messy, complicated, impossible love, had won.